One.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy, it is Super Bowl week. The finish line for the NFL season is oh so close. Cannot wait I'm so prepared for next week to just be all about the Australian Open, tennis handicap, just nothing else going on in sports. I'm sure your college basketball is going extremely well. Congratulations on crushing. NBA golf is going well right now. I'm so happy to put a bow on this season. So ready to move into the off season of the NFL. But
somebody did ask about, like, do you ever get sick of talking about the NFL? Like, yeah, like week 10. And still, but I do love. I'm jacked for it. And the Super Bowl offers so many unique opportunities to get involved. Whether you're doing a numbers board with your buddies, or there's prop contests. There's a million props to bet. Just making what maybe you make some special fancy dish for the Super Bowl party every year, or whatever you're having at home. It's fun. Like it doesn't matter that the number is really, really baked already, and it's probably where it should be. And the market has decided where things need to be days ago, if not a week ago. It's still a great game. There's a lot of fun. You got the commercials, you got just the fact that we got a good matchup, I think is great too. Like there has been a few over the past few years. It's like, fuck, I'm not excited about this matchup whatsoever.
This is a good one though.
This is a really good one, just from a standpoint of watching the game. Somebody in the chat here is asking, will you have a prop pod? Literally, the Wednesday evening, YouTube only / podcast will be 100% props. And I'm very excited. And we might even do a halftime show.
Yeah, and we have a guest for the prop pod. We had got very lucky, booked him way early, so should be good to go. It'll be a ton of fun handicapping the Gatorade color, the anthem halftime, the anthem length, over under, the first song of the halftime show. We're gonna get it all. And that will be Wednesday's pod.
There's a couple of fucked up ones already. Like they're pushing the envelope. Like one is like, will anybody slap the girl referee on the butt? Like, hey, what are we doing here, guys? Like,
what?
Yeah, it was one. I won't even dog on them. It's an offshore, but because it'll be the first female referee, and there's like 6 props, and one it's fine. Like, will she have her hair under her hat, or will it be in a ponytail? That's fine. Okay. Betting on an NFL player to slap her on the butt feels awful. Like we won't be betting on that one.
It'll be a story. It would be a story though.
Yeah.
Hey, how did somebody possibly guess what the guess was going to be? Anyway, no confirmation. Guess? No confirmation. One way or the other. Okay, so the prop pod, a little housekeeping. Prop pod will be Wednesday. Today we are going to do the big game handicap. We are going to hit this from every single possible angle. There's got to be some value somewhere, right? I mean, I saw this 88% trend over the weekend that I think I'm probably going to make some bets on, and it's surely going to cash, right? 88% happens 100% of the time, right?
It's like God, what is Panther? Sex Panther. I couldn't think of the name of the cologne.
We're going to find some value somewhere. But I guess, what'd you think real quick though? There was big news in the NFL over the weekend before we get into the big game handicap. Jared Goff apparently was a tradable asset. Who knew? I guess the salary cap really does mean nothing. You can put yourself in cap jail with terrible contracts to Todd Gurley and Jared Goff that you give out in back-to-back years, and it doesn't matter, apparently. You can retool on the fly, no problem, no questions asked. Someone will take on those assets, is what we've learned. And the salary cap really means nothing. So any preconceptions I had of teams this upcoming season based on salary cap, I'm going to go ahead and throw them out the window right now. pretty wild that Jared Goff and Matt Stafford are switching teams. Rams are back in it, right? I mean, is this the Rams the top three, top of the market in the NFC, top 3 team probably?
It's funny that we spent so much time on the salary cap without answering your question. Maybe, probably not, honestly. Truthfully, top 5, maybe not top 3. I think they already were on the cusp of top 5. I don't know if it makes a massive difference. Do you remember the Drew Carey show? Not the Drew Carey show. That's literally what that one was called. The one where he did improv. Right? No, the improv one.
Oh yeah. Whose line is it?
Yeah. We're at the beginning. He's like, where the rules are made up and the points don't matter.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
That's the salary.
That's what it makes me feel like. So upgrade. It's an upgrade for the Rams at quarterback. Maybe. It's likely not an upgrade for Matthew Stafford for weapons around him. It is a definite upgrade for Matthew Stafford for as far as coaching and scheme.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the Rams window is very tight, all things considered, not just salary cap, but the fact of the rest of the NFC, the fact that some of their players are aging, and it doesn't matter if salary cap might be not an issue. There are players you can't retain everyone. That's just not how things work. So they're a top 5 team in the NFC, but it's not like some massive upgrade. I'm not swinging wildly at the Rams here.
Oh, 100% agree. No. Yeah. I think Goff's ceiling was getting you to like the bottom of the top 10 in quarterback performance. Like his ceiling was he was going to finish 9, 10, 11, overall in terms of quarterback performance. I think Stafford's kind of his likely is probably in that range. It's 10 to 16. He's probably going to get there. His ceiling is still kind of in the 8, 9, 10 department, but his floor is a lot higher than Goff's. Right? I mean, I guess injury accepting, his floor is higher.
He is a little injury prone. He does like to take a hit. Again, that's maybe it's a Wolford season. Who knows? But yeah, I'm not excited about the jump they took in the market. The Lions, I like it. I think it was a good trade for both teams. I mean, final note on it: good trade for both teams. But I especially like it for the Lions. Outside of the money. Roster-wise, it buys them enough time to rebuild and then hire an actual coach in 2 years. Like you acquire a bunch of draft picks. No, seriously, this has to be a placeholder, right? You acquire these draft picks, you put some talent around a young quarterback that you find in this draft or next, and then you get a different coach in 2 years. And your roster is set up to compete in the NFC North.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Goff might be really bad with a bad coach, though.
I don't disagree. Okay, let's get into the Super Bowl and let's get some stuff off the top here. Okay,
top rope.
Just disclaimers. This is an efficient market. Agree or disagree?
Heartily agree.
Okay, we know a lot about these teams, right? There's not really any surprises. There may be some disagreement about how much home field is worth. There may be some disagreement about Eric Fisher's impact on the offensive line being in or out of this game. There may be some slight disagreement on, how certain parts of these two teams match up with each other. But in general, this is there's not a lot of uncertainty really coming into this market and into this game. And as with most Super Bowls, any kind of idea that there is some massive edge is probably unfounded. As with most Super Bowls, it just because there is one game left in the season doesn't mean you have to bet it. And that definitely doesn't mean you have to put a normal week's worth of action into play on one game, certainly. And, a lot of people are, there's a funneling effect as you have fewer and fewer games where people feel like they will bet every game regardless of an edge or not. And just recognize that it's a common error as a young player in this space to put any much more at risk in this game than you would for any normal game on a regular week in a Sunday in the NFL. Okay. I will absolutely listen to anyone who says, but the prop market is full of a lot of soft props and I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to have a lot at risk in the prop market. Fine. That's fine. I just mean in terms of the side and the total in this game and the kind of the degrees of freedom in terms of the uncertainty here. It's narrow. It's narrow. Okay. And and that said, it's stupid and stinks to do content all week. And I'm going to do freaking 10 shows probably this week. And everyone's going to ask the same questions. And it stinks not to seem like you have an opinion on the game. Right.
That does suck.
I have an opinion. I have an opinion on this, but I know that it's not an edge that's bigger than a normal game. I know it.
No, and I mean, let's just cut the crap, Drew. What if you put in your numbers together? What do your numbers make this side?
3.5.
Yeah. I'm closer to 3. Like if I had to bet it based fully on numbers, it would be you should take Tampa at this number. But again, it's not a big enough edge to overcome the vig. It's not a big enough edge to play.
Sure.
Especially at the where the total sits. It's probably not. I think that definitely should be taken into account with a high total like this. It lessens the edge. So it does suck. Like I was kind of, I don't want to say depressed. That's the wrong word. I'm a happy guy, but I was a little down in the dumps, like thinking about this podcast, this stream we're going to do today, thinking like, man, are we just going to have to tell people don't bet this? And Roxy Roxborough had a good point about this too. He said, if you're not, and I know a lot of our audience doesn't fall into this category, but it's like if you're betting one game a year, who gives a shit if you get the best number?
Of course. Just
have fun, bet it. But if you're taking it seriously, like we are trying to do, if you're taking it seriously, you're betting the NFL all year, trying to grind out an edge, then please, I've seen, and granted, some of these people weren't the brightest when it comes to this sort of thing. They're very smart people in life, but I've seen people wipe out their whole year on the Super Bowl. Like I've seen somebody have a good season.
Thank you.
And then he's like, and then they go 10 times their bet on the side, 5 times on the total. And then they hit the second half and it's like, oh man, I had, it was up like 20 units and now it's gone. Don't do that. That's no fun. It's more fun to have that cash and roll it into college basketball.
Absolutely. So absolutely do not go into this game thinking that is going to decide your season one way or the other. If you have been listening to this podcast regularly, if you have been exercising kind of good handicapping and good judgment and good bankroll management throughout the season, this game should not impact your bottom line on the NFL season one way or the other, period. It should not. And this is how this goes. This will be the most wagered upon sporting event in North America this year. Period. This one game, and these markets, the side and the total they will write so much action on these relative to a normal game where you may have an edge in college basketball or a golf matchup or you name it, right? This is the bookmakers' year-end bonus here. They have a tight number. They are going to write massive amounts of action on both sides of this. Massive. Yep. There is sentiment. There are people who are making the same case for Kansas City, turn around, somebody making equally strong case for Tampa Bay. There is lots of action being written on both sides here. Promise you. Right? Then this is the year-end bonus for the bookmakers. Okay. And there is, we're not your mom. We're not here to tell you how to have fun, right? Have fun. This is, sports betting is fun. This is entertainment, but bet it with eyes open. That you know what you're getting involved with this game. So with that said, Chiefs by a million, right? That's by a million. Who's with me? Who's coming with me?
Tampa Bay has been showing a bit of value for me, and I've been ignoring it.
Okay.
Maybe I'll do it one more time. Like let's do the guns to the heads, which is dangerous. Yeah. You should always have the safety on.
Yeah.
But if you had if I had to bet a side in total.
I would just Tampa?
No, I'd pay 20 cents, lay the 3, and I'd bet the over because that's what I'd want to cheer for.
Sure, of course.
I want to cheer for Kansas City rolling down the field. I want to cheer for Tom Brady coming back, staying with them shot for shot, and then Kansas City scoring late, winning by 5. Like that's what I want to watch. So if I had to bet it, that's what we're doing.
I love it. Okay. And we've already bet this game. If I have Chiefs 5 plus 550 in my queue at one place, 450 at another place. I have Chiefs only, by the way. I don't have any Tampa Bay at all, which is kind of weird. I completely missed this boat that Tampa was going to make a run through from the wild card to get here. I got a teeny little bit of stake in one place, but it's not going to be big dollar sign at all if Tampa wins here. And I have Mahomes at 3-1 to win the MVP from prior to the AFC title game. So I'm staked here that Chiefs with good numbers for the Chiefs to win. And the fact that I look at the market and I see a 60% implied break even on the money line for the Chiefs makes me pretty happy. Now I'm a little higher than 60% for them. I'm a little higher than a flat 3. I'm a little higher than the 3 minus 120 also. And I have a long tail in my distribution where the Chiefs do win by comfortable margin. I don't have a long tail in the Tampa Bay winning by comfortable margin at all. I think if Tampa Bay wins, it's a pretty narrow set of outcomes and it's a pretty close game, right? You don't see Tampa Bay blowout as a reasonable, because Chiefs are going to get back into it if Tampa Bay ever has margin in this one, right? So this is a game that does have a lopsided potential outcomes, and I think it's long in favor of the Chiefs personally. The market in this one opened at 3.5, depending on where you looked. 1 week ago today, we talked about the openers and made some commentary on where the number was going to go, if we thought it would go anywhere. I kind of thought it was going to end up at 3.5 because I thought there was going to be more market support overall for the Chiefs. But it looked to me, at least, like the market making books who were writing big 5-figure tickets on Monday last week wanted to write a little bit of Tampa Bay plus 3.5 at a decent VIG. And then they wanted to have a flat 3 for the rest of the market cycle. That's kind of what it's looked like to me. And there's just been some jockeying around with the juice since then. And reasonably, this is where we landed when these two teams played back in November. So it's not shocking. That number closed 3. So the fact that this game is going to close 3 also seems reasonable. Do you have any thoughts on sort of the market maturation? And do you think this week is there going to be more Chiefs money that pushes us back to 3.5, or do you think we're here?
The only difference is it being a neutral, and say what you want about that, and truthfully say what you want about the first matchup having any home field. So maybe it's a good analog for that. The fact that you're probably talking neutrals in either case, I guess, but like the home field isn't there for me. I can give them the tiniest of bumps for the fact that it's a stadium. They're comfortable. I don't know if that's even a thing. Like the crowd, I just don't see the crowd being pro either team. The crowd's just going to be a bunch of people with the money you can get to the Super Bowl. The crowd's going to be excited for a lot of, both teams. And it actually is a decent size, but I don't think you're going to see a ref bias. So I'm fine with the number being where it's at, all things considered. And how Tampa's played the last couple of weeks, how the Tampa offense has looked, especially when we saw some hiccups in the regular season. So I guess no surprises on the side, especially considering, you said did it land 3 or no? Tampa lost by 2, I believe, in the regular season.
3.
They lost by 3.
Yeah, it landed in the middle. There were some shops wrote KC minus 2.5 for a little bit. And a lot of people took Tampa Bay plus 3.5. I know that. So it landed in the middle.
Yeah, and it was 3. I kept thinking that Tampa
3
covered most numbers. And that's why, for some reason, I thought it was 2. So
everyone that we know that bet the game got Tampa 3.5 early in the week.
Yeah, so they covered everything with some late points. And yeah, they scored it was 14-0 in the fourth quarter. I mean, it went into the fourth quarter 27-10. I mean, if you really look at that box score and see how Kansas City played against a great team on the road, maybe this should be 3.5. But if you really take into account what's happened over the last however many weeks, what was that? It was the end of November, somewhere in the neighborhood of week 10, maybe 9, 10. So if you take into account everything that's happened since then, how they played in the playoffs, and the fact that Kansas City's down a couple linemen, it's the right number. I mean, and granted, yeah, like we're saying, we're coming up with the same number. A lot of people we know are coming up saying this number is pretty damn sharp, and it's kind of what you run into in Super Bowls. So if you do, if you end with COVID, maybe you should just tease it with the uncertainty.
Okay.
Don't do that.
With COVID and the uncertainty, just tease it.
Just tease
Chiefs, just tease Chiefs, perfect teaser leg, right? Yeah, why not? No way you could have a tie in the Super Bowl. Anyway, fundamentally, the market looks like it's going to land where the regular season market landed. That one, by the way, landed the biggest the market making books jockeyed around from -3, -120, -119 on game day morning. But it was basically a juicy -3 for the Chiefs. The penny money line was -166 for the Chiefs on the close. So now I guess it's a little, there's a little bit more, a little shaded, a little more towards KC, I suppose. Do you have a vig free money line probability here for the Chiefs? Do you have a number in your mind?
150.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I hadn't really put much thought in that. 150, 160.
Okay.
I don't know. What did you say you were at? I was answering someone in the chat.
I'm a little higher than that. I'm about -175, -180 almost. But I recognize why Tampa Bay is a hot side. I mean, Tampa Bay is a little bit of a hot side, right? I mean, this has moved a little bit in their direction. You can't get +150. I guess looks like the best number out there. I guess Circa has a +150. That's the best number you're going to find anywhere on Tampa. So they're asking for juice on the KC side by your numbers. All right. So the market has warmed, it's gotten to a fair place here. The total we saw come down from 58, 57 market wide to 56. Is that a reasonable
yeah. And that was another one too, where we said like if they really are gonna, and we were looking at soft openers when we first had that conversation. We said if this is gonna open up there, it's gonna come down. And in my head said, well, Andy, you just said it's coming to come down. Don't you want to bet this under? And then I thought, no, I don't. I really don't. I get it. It's likely the sharp side. You'll get closing line value, but what are the 2 points between 58 and 56 all worth? It's not a ton.
Less than like a percent-ish.
Yeah, it's not worth much. Closing line value is nice, but now when it's a side you don't like, just because I don't want to say no, it makes me sound a little, just because you think how a market's going to move doesn't mean you should automatically just take that side to get the closing line value. If you disagree with it. I'm not saying the market's dumb or wrong, but I disagree with it enough that not enough to bet the over, but certainly enough to keep me off the under, even though it did end up moving down a little. If it continues to tick down, if there's like a bunch of late under money and it's not from the spots where I would be worried about, I might think about taking a late over.
Okay. The first matchup closed at a flat 56. So the fact that you look around and we're at a flat 56 should not surprise you. And again, the first matchup, we'll get into that in a little more detail here in a second. But, this is another long tail over, right? I mean, there's not a long tail under. For sure. I think there's a very few game states where this is lower scoring than 44, right?
Yeah.
This is probably, most of these outcomes, I think, land in the 44 to 60-ish range. But there's a long tail to the over. Each team could score 30. Each team is capable of scoring. And in fact, if you want to kind of pivot right to the handicap, then the question you have to ask yourself when you're handicapping a Chiefs game, is this an offense capable of scoring 30 points? Yes or no? If yes, then they're live. And Tampa is capable of scoring 30 points, so technically they're live. I personally, I did not see it in the first matchup. I did not understand the Tampa Bay momentum really at all in the market. It was, again, a very popular play to take the 3.5 points. It was in Tampa. There were people who thought that Tampa was going to pull off the upset in that game. And in the first half, it never really felt like it was a close contest. Chiefs pulled out some of the good plays. This was kind of when we started the good plays narrative to a degree, because it looked like they kind of pulled out some looks in the first half that were pretty unique. We hadn't really seen in a couple of weeks. It was pretty exciting to watch it. And it was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, man. Now that they're up against tough competition, they're just going to, just run roughshod on these guys. But they got some fortuitous turnovers in the first half that made that margin look a little bigger than it really ought to have been. And then they kind of put the good plays away in the second half. Tampa Bay had made some defensive adjustments. They started playing the more common way we've seen teams defend Pat Mahomes, where you put more safeties back and you're less aggressive with your pass defense and you just try to get pressure with your front four. And it worked to a degree. They had scored 14 garbage time points that made the margin final closer than it seemed. But ultimately, if I had to regrade how that game went, the game state made a huge impact in terms of, how it landed, obviously. But I still think that was a 1-score win by the Chiefs ultimately, even though the backdoor and the 14 points late were, pretty garbage time points. It still took the Chiefs converting 3 first downs at the end of that contest with the ball, not to give it back and give Brady one more chance to score a game-tying field goal.
The turnovers were in the second half for Tampa.
Oh, were they? So how did they get such a margin in the first half?
So am I misremembering? Yeah, Tampa went 5 and out, whichever, they went like 20 yards. So 5 and out, if you want to call it, that's the point of phrase. They went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. At this point, Kansas City is up 17-0. Tampa has gotten 1 first down. They've punted 4 times. Kansas City has the ball up 17-0, drives the field. First and goal from the 8, up 17-zip, the fumble.
That's right. Yes.
The sack fumble.
I forgot about
that. And it wasn't, it wasn't a sack fumble that was in the shadow of your goal line or put you in instant field goal position. It was pretty much recovered right where it landed, if I remember right.
That's what I remember.
Tampa did take this and drive the field. That was how they scored in the first half. They got their only touchdown of the first half, their only points of the first half. Kansas City got the ball back with a few minutes left, went down, kicked a field goal. It wasn't like we ran out of time field goal. It was, it was getting close, but I think they did. It was some of that Andy Reid end of the time. Man, they were down within I think inside the red zone. Let me pull it up. Yeah, they kicked the field goal from the 11-yard line. So they got down to the red zone with, it looks like 40 seconds left. Yeah. So, I mean, and then so you go in the half 20-7. Tampa Bay comes out, kicks a field goal. All of a sudden, it's a 10-point game. KC answers instantly. 27-10.
Dang.
Tampa pick. Kansas City 3 and out. Tampa pick. Kansas City 3 and out. Kind of reminded me of the Green Bay game all of a sudden.
Yeah. Huh.
Where it goes. Yeah, it goes. Because, all it was is 1 fewer interception. But because Green Bay went touchdown, pick, punt, pick, punt. So this went pick, punt. And then at that point, I'm looking at the first touchdown drive started with 13 seconds left in the third quarter. So they're down 27-10, which is 3 scores, which is comfortable time in the fourth quarter. You're down 3 scores in the fourth quarter. The first drive didn't take long.
Lightning fast.
It was lightning fast. Kansas City punted, but they did take 6 minutes off the clock. Like you said, Kansas City or Tampa Bay was able to score again in like 2 minutes, but then Kansas City just wiled away the last 4 minutes. So it was eerily similar, -1 final score. Really, they just weren't close enough in that case, or in Green Bay's case, they were ahead. But the fact that it went pick punt, and this one didn't quite go Tampa's way, but it went Tampa's way as far as ATS.
Tampa scored.
And Brady,
they scored fast too. They didn't waste time. They didn't milk the clock. They just lightning fast scores in the fourth quarter. Bam, bam. And you're right. I mean, shoot, Kansas City won time of possession in the fourth quarter. Like what? Like 10-5, maybe.
Yeah.
They went 2-1 on them time of possession in the fourth quarter, and Tampa Bay scored 2 touchdowns.
Score.
Yeah, Kansas City didn't.
I mean, granted, the last 4 minutes were just get rid of the clock, but Brady.
Let's zero in on that drive. This was kind of the game that made me start to think hard about how important Mahomes' mobility was, because the first 2 first downs they converted were Mahomes scramble up the middle for 4 yards on 2nd and 3, scramble to the left for 8 yards on 2nd and 6. And then it's 3rd and 7 with 1:15 to go. If they don't convert this 3rd down, then they're going to have to punt back, and it's going to be like a minute left with no timeouts. And Tampa Bay is going to have a chance to tie. Mahomes makes a pass, short left to Tyreek Hill. He runs. It was yards after catch there that got that for 8 yards, just enough to get the first down. And then Tampa Bay never sees the ball back. So interestingly, this was one where Mahomes rushing, especially in this fourth quarter, ended up being a pretty important aspect in putting this game away. Just interesting note there.
Brady
game landed under the total.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And it was largely because of the missed opportunity to score points by the Chiefs in the first, with the fumble at the goal line. That would have probably flown over if they'd got there. Not scoring either of their long drives in the fourth quarter, just evaporating that clock. But, Chiefs with the lead is generally good for an in-game under. We know this. Chiefs with the deficit is really good for an in-game over. We know this. And yeah, Chiefs with a big lead, didn't pad it, didn't run away and hide. They let a team back in. That's kind of been their MO as well. Even against the Bills, in the AFC title game, they let them score some late points. They didn't recover the onside kick.
These guys are going to kick field goals. Fuck it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But they let that margin come in anyway.
Yeah, they did.
So there was a lot of typical this Week 12 matchup between these teams was pretty typical. After losing this game, Tampa Bay obviously went into their bye, came out of their bye, and has been a much, much better team since. I don't know.
Brady still has thrown. Somebody brought it up in the chat. Somebody said, those Brady interceptions were made a big difference. He does that in bunches sometimes. He has thrown 15 picks now, if you count the postseason, which is not a clean year for him. And some of these have been kind of bad. The one to Evans, just airmailing that over his head. Like, if Kansas City's offense is a clicking and the good plays are a popping, and you decide to throw away a possession or two like that, I don't know if anything else matters. Like, at that point, if Kansas City's offense is in full go mode and shit's working and the pass rush from Tampa's not getting home, you throw away one or two possessions and like, oh yeah, no shit, Andy. But the turnover battle's going to decide a game. Yeah, like it's a death penalty for teams if Kansas City's offense is moving. Because you see, you can't win games with field goals. You really can't win them with interceptions. It's even worse than a field goal, I think.
Brady has 5 multi-pick games this year.
Yeah, bunches. He does it in weird bunch where he was clean against Washington. He was clean in the second game, and then he went dirty again against Green Bay. I mean, the one to the sideline was kind of weird with the route, but I mean, the where he threw that was just like, this is not good.
Okay, so so then sipping back in a little bit more into the handicap here then. Is it fair to say that Kansas City clearly has the better quarterback?
Yeah, especially if his foot's fine and they're fine running him. That's such an underrated part of his. Everyone looks at the sidearm passes and the deep stuff to Tyreek, but the thing we've been talking about for weeks now is the clear out, the third down clear outs where he just scampers for 15 yards before you even see anybody else in the shot. It's something. So if his toe is feeling better, if he shot up good and they're willing to run him, and it's one of those things where I don't give a shit how a player feels after the game because he got 6 months to feel better.
Sure.
Like that, I would think last week is different because you say, well, you got 2 weeks to recover, but still we have another game to play. We can't break anybody. Not to say that teams are going to be negligent with a player, but
sure, of course.
This is something a player knows too. Like, all right, I'm going to fight through this. If I'm sore for 3 days afterwards, so be it. That trophy will take care of a lot of pain. So I would think they're less careful with him in the running game this week. That would be a big part. And then, not taking anything away from Tom. And Pat's had some bad throws. Down in the red zone, he's been a little suspect in a few spots. I'm looking up his interceptions right now. Regular season, how did he only throw 6? It feels like more.
No, he was very, very clean this
year. He had
3 of them or 2 of them against the Dolphins too. Like there was really
it just once down the stretch when we were dogging on them a little, there was a bunch of these near picks. and I don't have that stat in front of me. Just like interceptable, like Josh Allen.
Turnover-worthy plays.
Turnover-worthy plays. A few of them, it's like, man, they're playing with fire because they need to keep scoring here to keep up with this team. And if he's going to do that in the red zone, that's bad news. He's been pretty clean. So if he's playing with his head on and his toes feeling fine, quarterback advantage. But it's not by a ton. It's Tom Brady's been great this season.
Does the fact that this is Tom Brady's 10th Super Bowl raise his floor in terms of how poorly he could play in this game, right? Like, he's not going to come out and have a stinker, right? I don't think I mean, he was not great in the 2 Giants Super Bowls, largely because of the way the Giants were able to get pressure on him. By the way, one of those was a Steve Spagnuolo defense, but we'll get to that. He hasn't ever really given us a true playoff stinker. And, I guess, is it fair to say his floor is relatively high here just on the basis of experience?
Well, not only basis of experience, but the talent on this offensive roster outside of playoff Lenny.
Okay.
There was a lot of good receivers to bail him out. It's been a pretty good offensive line. He's experienced. He's had 2 weeks to recover. And, at his age, I think a bye week is, we talked about Patrick having a bad toe and maybe still some lingering effects from getting choked out. It's great for him, but it's way more important for a man at Tom's age.
Of course.
Getting that extra week off is going to be big. Something, and I still have the box score open from the first one. And he said it went under. It landed on 51.
Yeah.
Which did stay under. You want to know how many combined red zone trips there were by the 2 teams?
Okay, now does that include the touchdowns for Tampa? Because weren't Tampa's touchdowns really long? Like, weren't they like 30, 40 yards?
Yeah, I'm just asking how many combined red zone appearances there were by the.
I just want to know if that includes the Tampa's touchdowns. It probably does, right?
I'm not looking those up. I'm not looking up each drive to look what the last play was. Just
8,
5. There were only 5 red zone appearances in a game with 51 points, and only 1 was capitalized on.
Wow. They were 1 of 5 in the red zone. Wow.
Kansas City was up 27-10 and was 0 for 3 in the red zone.
That was characteristic of their whole year.
I got to check if that last drive ended in the red zone or something silly.
Characteristic of their whole year. Their last drive didn't. It ended at like the 50.
No, it ended at the 41. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of handicapping, we say slight lean, not slight lean, like decent case to be made. Kansas City has the better quarterback in this matchup. Higher expectations of Pat Mahomes than Tom Brady. Okay, agreed. Kansas City has the better coach in this matchup.
Yeah. We dogged on Arians 3 weeks ago, saying he might be one of the worst coaches left he was the worst coach left in the divisional round. He got bailed out by Drew Brees playing like shit. He was definitely, again, the worst coach in the championship round. And
Matt LaFleur outsmarted himself.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur was too cute by half. We kicked field goals against that offense. And again, Tom Brady picks aside, he's looked good in the entire playoff run.
Sure enough.
It's weird that the picks, not only just like we talk about clusters, like the multi-pick games, just back to back to back, or even just the 2 games that we're looking at.
A couple drives in a row. Yeah. Yeah.
A couple drives in a row. Like I don't know. That's goofy to me.
Yeah, it is goofy. I agree. So better coaching staff, Kansas City. We agree, right? Overall, Kansas City have the better defense? Overall?
A little lot.
Oh, really?
It's close, but a little higher on Tampa's pass rush, especially from a matchup standpoint, just the injuries. A lot higher on the linebackers, but edge to Kansas City's coverage unit. So it's like 2 out of 3 for Tampa, but none of them are massive. So edge to Tampa, but not a big one.
I guess Tampa clearly the better run defense.
Yes.
But that only comes into play in terms of game state and live opportunities. We'll get to that. But pass defense, you think is a 50-50? The pass defense from a pass rush standpoint is better for Tampa. Pass defense from a pass coverage standpoint is better for Kansas City?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Split. Okay. Tampa Bay, clearly an edge in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely, both sides.
Their offensive line, one of the best in football.
They move people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Tampa Bay Moving Company.
Kansas City's defense has the very underwhelming Frank Clark, but the very awesome Chris Jones. Chris Jones. Tampa Bay, as good as their offensive line has been all season, and as great as they've been in these playoffs, they gave up a lot of pressure in the first time these two teams played. Brady got hit 8 times in that game. I don't recall if there were any sacks. There were 3 sacks, but there were 8 quarterback hits overall. There was 1 forced fumble. Actually, that was Tampa.
Yeah, that was the sack on Mahomes. So
the sack, yeah. The Kansas City did not record a sack. Is that right?
No? They were. There was one. Tampa. He was sacked 1 time. The 2 picks, and again, I should have brought up the film on those to see if those were pressure related or if it was just effing up. A lot of penalties in the game. Something I kind of missed earlier that I wanted to bring up. There was 18 combined accepted penalties.
Wow.
And then just, like I said, the 3 turnovers. A little bit of sloppiness.
Not a lot of yardage though, so they were little ones.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing
false starts and
whatnot. Just a lot of procedural stuff, a little bit of sloppiness.
Okay.
A lot of passing yards. 91 combined attempts, 64 completions, like 800 damn yards. That's what I want. I want that, except better red zone efficiency.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then let's look into the game specific matchups then and try to figure out how they matter. Kansas City, when they have the ball and their offense going up against Tampa's defense. If Tampa sticks to who they are and they run out the defense that they usually like to play, I would characterize that as a little bit too reliant on the blitz for my taste.
Bad idea.
Which is a bad idea against Kansas City specifically, right?
Yeah.
They are very aggressive cornerbacks. They like to try to jump the short route. They can give you excellent coverage, tight windows in this short and intermediate game. That may take away the wide receiver screen a little bit. That may take away the quick slants a little bit. Maybe they can come up with a defensive strategy to contain Kelsey, but ultimately,
good luck.
If Tampa does their thing with the blitz in this one and really relies on their linebackers to be the decisive factor in this, does Pat Mahomes eat them alive with the home run?
Yeah, and it's going to be tough without the tackles. And you might be, you bring the blitz. If you can scheme a blitz that pushes him back and allows the DNs to get to him, where the blitzer likely doesn't touch him. The blitzer is pushing him back so he can't step up in the pocket, avoid the edge pressure. Maybe that works, but as a general rule, blitzing doesn't work well if you're relying on a linebacker, and these are good linebackers. In fact, some are pretty decent off-ball linebackers, but if you're going to rely on them to cover, if you're relying on them to cover a 75-year-old Jason Witten, probably works.
Of course.
If you're relying on him to cover Kelsey in just all his glory, that's not as fun. That's not as fun, especially where Pat can put the ball. So if you're going to end up with a single coverage linebacker covering Kelsey over the middle, if you're going to bring a safety on a blitz and you're going to watch Tyreek streaking down that corner of the field, things like that are going to come back to bite you. It's happened for years now. Like bringing extra people at Pat just gives you better coverage matchups for him to hit, especially with the kind of separation he can get with Kelsey's skill, his body, what do you want to call it? Just his positioning, what he does to get open, and then Tyreek's speed and everybody else, like even Hardman and Watkins, God willing, everybody there is really good at creating separation. So if you have one fewer guys in coverage, shit could get pretty bad. So
okay. So
And somebody brought up Tampa's linebackers are pretty bad in pass coverage. I don't want to yell at them too bad about it. A lot of it is this scheme. They get put in bad situations. Like it looks, they're asked to do a ton. And I mean, you're right, Giorgio. Like they give up a lot against these linebackers, but the poor son of bitches, they don't get much help because there's always blitzing going on. So if that's what we see, it could be a long day for the defense.
What is, I guess, do you have a guess as to how Todd Bowles comes into this game from a game plan standpoint on defense? Does he stick? Is he true to the identity of this defense with plan A and they pass rush and they blitz Mahomes regularly? Or do they say their injured O-line is enough that our plan A is we're gonna get pressure with 4. And we're gonna play against Mahomes like we played him in the second half of the game in November, where we have safeties deep and we're less aggressive and we literally go out of what we normally do, because that's kind of a key decision here, one way or the other for Tampa. Do we do our plan A, or do we revise it to something that that maybe plays better into this current situation?
I would have, don't you think you have a couple plans? I hate guessing what a coach is going to do because we're always wrong.
I do too.
But I guess my plan would be to do what you did in the second half versus them. Drop some safeties, take away the deep stuff, make them work for it, make them, like the good Dr. Eric says, cross the street 100 times to get to the end zone, make them take the short stuff, make them use Hilaire in the screen game, make them use the running game, make them use comebacks with Kelsey, short stuff, don't get beat over the top. You don't want to see Tyreek running down the field with the safety 15 yards behind him in the wrong direction. So it's tough. Somebody just said pick your poison. It is kind of a pick your poison, but in a pick your poison and the short stuff, there's more of a chance of a third down drop. You don't drop. These guys don't drop the deep ball. They're so good. So I would do that. And then if it's not working, sprinkle in some blitzes. Okay. As with everything we say about coaching, so much is being unpredictable, doing different things differently, doing things that aren't on film,
making aggressive adjustments. Yeah,
aggressive adjustments, especially at half. You have a longer halftime, so you can make wild adjustments if you really want to. And then also the spread to run. You spread your formation out to run the ball. It works better. You come in tight to pass. Doing things like that on defense, disguising coverages, disguising blitzes. You have to be. I mean, it has to be a masterclass on his part to do anything with this. So, good luck. I hope he finds his happiness, but it could go bad. If I were him, I wouldn't stick with it. The blitzing isn't going to work. Showed that in the first game. That's what the first half was.
Yeah. This is Todd Bowles' first ever Super Bowl as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But did you know he won the Super Bowl as a player?
I did hear that. I don't even remember what team he was on.
He was on the Washington football team in 1990 when they defeated the Denver Broncos 42-10.
Doug Williams, or was that Rippon?
This was the Rippon year, right?
Yeah, I think Doug Williams.
This was the 1988. This was the 88 year. This was Doug Williams. Rippon was against the Bills a couple years later. Did they win with 3 different quarterbacks? The Redskins back then. Yeah,
Theismann
Williams.
They were back then.
Theismann, Williams, and Rippon, each one.
They had a couple MVPs in the 80s too, including the kicker.
That's right, Mark Murphy.
Huge Art Monk game. Art Monk.
My
posse. Favorite old school receivers. Art Monk
was part of the posse. Do you remember the posse? Gary Clark, Art Monk, and Ricky Sanders. They were.
I just know Gary Clark Jr.
Yeah. All right, so different guy. Okay, the Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator. I think he can make the right adjustments in this one. I agree with you. I don't like guessing what his plan A is going to be, but I think it kind of doesn't matter. I think the Chiefs are going to get theirs. I really don't think Tampa Bay can come into this game with the mindset that we're going to win with defense, because guess what? We saw how that went last 1 year ago. We saw how that went. San Francisco came in with the mindset that they were going to win with defense. They weren't aggressive enough. They scored 20 points thinking they were going to beat the damn Chiefs. Get the hell out of here. You need to be a lot more aggressive as an offense. And guess what? Last year's San Francisco 49ers defense was better than this year's Tampa Bay defense substantially.
A lot
Would you agree? And they gave up 31 points, most of it in the second half. So, that is
Good call, chat. Tim Smith did have a massive playoff games. Yeah, they're gonna, and the thing we've harped on for like a month and a half, 2 months, like, oh, are they saving the good plays? Like, this is not a spot where you're saving the good plays. Like, the good plays come out if they haven't already come out. Like, if there's anything left in the tank, you're gonna see that. And yeah, it's just like a good defense can maybe do it for a half, possibly 3 quarters. We saw the Niners do it for almost 3 quarters, and I was honestly amazed that it worked that long. And then the wheels fell off.
Yeah, I mean, the pass rush gets tired. A pass rush will get tired.
They needed a better offensive game plan. Like, if they'd have scored a couple more, it'd have been a very good game. Instead, it was, wow, they're going to lose. They're going to screw this up here.
If Tampa Bay does well early in this game defensively, holds the Chiefs down to say like 10 points or something in the first half, like eventually the dam is going to break. Eventually. It always does. And I guess I give Tampa Bay like kind of the key to their defense, in my opinion, is they stop the run extremely effectively. It is very, very, very tough to run down the throat of this team and really put away games, which is, I think, what we see and what we were talking about with the first matchup here. I mean, Kansas City, again, they dominated time of possession in that fourth quarter, but they didn't score points. They eventually had to punt on that 6-minute long drive after they got a couple of first downs. And like, Tampa Bay's run defense is solid. It's tough for me to see here even if the Chiefs get a lead, that Tampa Bay is effectively doesn't continue to get chances.
And that's why I think Kansas City knows the run, because if you look at the drive where they somehow had 9 plays for 25 yards, which is amazing to begin with.
yeah.
But,
how many minutes?
Yeah, it was 6.5 minutes.
6.5.
But they went pass, run, pass, run, sack, which was a pass, the interception, which was negated by roughing the passer, another pass, then another run, then they went pass, punt.
Wow.
And then obviously there was the Fisher holding, there was the Allegretti holding. I never know if I'm saying his name right, but there was 2 holding penalties to put him in like 2nd and 30. So yeah, you're not running on 2nd and 30, but even when they were whiling away the clock, they were still passing quite a bit. I think they get it.
Because I think they get it. That's exactly what I was going for. They get it. And
yes, we have NFL honors this Saturday.
Oh yes. So going back to the Chiefs last kind of bow on the Chiefs offense against the Bucs defense. I completely concede that the offensive line, I guess I'll ask you this. If Eric Fisher was healthy, if Mitchell Schwartz was out there, if this was a perfectly intact Kansas City offensive line, and we felt like Pat Mahomes was going to have all day to throw, what would be the impact on the line? 3.5?
Half a point.
Half a point?
It's not
much,
a
right?
lot. No.
So do you think that half a point adjustment down is fair? Does it really matter that Eric Fisher is not going to be out there?
A little bit, but maybe not a half point. It should be like a quarter. It helps, but at the same time, Andy Reid knows what he's working with. Like we're talking about, the defensive coordinator here trying to figure out what to do. You're also giving Andy Reid 2 weeks to scheme, knowing well that he might be getting roasted off the edges. I mean, JPP's had a great year. They've had edge pressure all year on good offensive lines.
Yes.
You're going to get some backups. And not only that, but you know what? Schwartz, it wasn't an injury that happened a week ago.
Right.
Like they've been working with that configuration on that side for a while. And they also get 2 weeks. They also get 2 weeks to work with this new configuration at offensive line and Andy Reid. So it's just there's nobody that's worth that many points on an offensive line that's not a center.
I can't even recall in any time in my life an Andy Reid offense has been especially susceptible to a pass rush either, to be honest. He's always had an answer.
No, he's a better schemer. So I'm not excited if you're a Kansas City backer, but I trust Andy to take care of things here.
Okay. So what we're saying then is Chiefs are going to score. The game.
There's a lot of words to say that.
I wonder if the market has priced that in. Do you think?
Yeah.
So then the entire question about the handicap comes down to, can Tampa Bay score? And in a neutral state, sure. In this particular game, they're pretty intact, right? I don't know. Do you have an update on Antonio Brown for me? Are we expecting him? Does it matter?
I don't know if it matters, but at the same time, the way that this is drug on is making me think he's not going to play. Like, that's making me a little nervous. For Tampa, it seemed like he was really close, and then like, no, he can't play. And now the fact that he hasn't really practiced much, it says, the coaches will say what the coaches say, but the way this is drug out is making me a little worried. I think he dresses. I think he, even if it's just as a bit of a decoy, I think he plays, but he might not be fully effective.
Okay. So target options for Tom Brady. Let's go over the embarrassment of riches. Playoff Lenny. Huge target. You got to target him 5 times in this game at least, right? No, that's facetious.
If you're a Kansas City backer, you hope so.
Yeah. Okay. I guess how do we distribute targets here between Evans, Godwin, Scotty Miller, and do we see Johnson much?
Yeah, you'll see Tyler.
How about Brait and Gronk?
Brait for sure. Brait's been great. That rhymes.
That's true. So a bevy of options in the past game, even outside, with no Brown. That's fine. Do they match up well against this Kansas City pass defense? When I look at this pass defense, I had questions about them going into that Buffalo game because they had a couple of guys hurt. It turned out that they play at a very high level when asked. This coverage unit, especially, they cover well. They have a bunch of guys that are kind of all equal strength. You can't really say
there's not a big leak.
Thank you, guys. What a great way to put it. There's no obvious leak. There's no obvious place to attack them in the passing game. And a lot of what Brady does in general when he's got this many weapons is he finds the soft spot, and they just, they find Kevin King and they embarrass him.
Make him sad. Just ruin him.
Ruin his career. Yes, in one game. That's kind of the MO for Brady over the years. Like, finding the weak spot takes him a little while to do it sometimes, but find it and then exploit it. And I don't see it in the passing defense for the Chiefs. Do you think Tampa ultimately comes in with a pass first approach? We saw them go run, pass ad nauseum against the Packers. It did not cost them in that game. They did not pay a consequence or a price for a bad sequencing plan. Do we see similar in this Chiefs game where they try to play keep away, run, pass? And is it effective against this Chiefs team? Because I have very, very significant questions that it's going to be effective against them, to be honest.
While I like the fact that they're a good running team and they can run on this team, like, should they? Because while we said it's a solid secondary, there's not an obvious leak. There's not an obvious, like, really soft spot. It's not a high-end secondary.
No.
It's passable. It's functional. It's middle of the league. It's okay. So when you have this just wealth of riches at wide receiver, not only wide receiver, but 2 very good tight ends and a couple of guys who can catch passes out of the backfield, going run, pass would seem like a good way to just screw up this Super Bowl.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't believe he'll change his mind on how he does things. And some of this is just confirmation bias, you would think, on a coach's part. I think that's why we see stupid performances at high levels, because once a team gets this far, whether it's a national title game, a Super Bowl, World Series, like, why would you change your coaching style? We made it this far. No coach in their head is thinking, oh man, I've been screwing up all year, but somehow we got it this far anyway, and I just keep doing it. Like the Goofy meme where I'll fucking do it again. It's like, if you're calling this offense, you're not thinking, man, I'm glad we made it to the Super Bowl, even though my stupid first down runs.
You're like, our plan works, baby.
It's confirmation bias. You stick with it, and I think it will hurt them. Whereas I think the best thing for Tampa Bay's offense will be Kansas City's offense doing well. Like, if they end up getting down a score or two, eventually you end up abandoning it, and that's why Kansas City leads are good for unders usually, but I do like this offense as far as a comeback offense.
Yeah, and the 14 points they scored in the fourth quarter of the game, we keep going back to ad nauseum, was evidence of that. Those were lightning fast points scored. Those were 30-yard touchdown passes, right?
There was 4.5 minutes between those two drives.
Bang, bang, bang. Yeah, they were capable of scoring quickly. I don't know, I guess, out of the gate whether to expect much out of these guys. Tom Brady has been historically slow in Super Bowls for whatever reason. I can't tell you that that's signal or noise. I have no fucking clue. But he has been historically slow to start Super Bowls. And, the Chiefs this year, at least in the playoffs, have had good first halves. It took them a little while to get going against Buffalo, but in reality, they had a 1-3 and out that was a drop away from a good drive, and they had a muffed punt, and that was all of Buffalo Bills points. Yeah. Basically, every next opportunity they scored touchdown. So I would say the likelihood that the Chiefs can get a lead in this game and play from ahead is pretty decent. And I agree with you. At that point, Tampa Bay has to throw the playbook out and just pass, let Tom Brady do his thing. I don't see where they necessarily can attack the Chiefs defense through the air with, I don't think the third down conversions are going to look as clean as they did for Brady against the Packers. Basically.
No, that was
going to be tough. They're going to have to get some high leverage.
Yeah, they played well. Like, you can't, variance is also a direct descendant of playing well. Like, if you play well, you call good plays, and you have a good quarterback and good receivers, your variance is going to land on your side more often than not. Somebody brought up in the previous matchup between these two teams, somebody said, the BS pass roughing the passer call on that INT. And I remember people being really mad about that and me not being mad. I don't think I had action on the game. And I went back and I was watching it while you call it. And you can say what you want. He hit him with his forearm right in the head, and right in front of the back judge. Like, if you hit a quarterback in the head, they have to call it nowadays. Yeah. It was good. It was great pressure, and this shit happens. We see so many worse roughing the passer calls than this. Anytime you hit a quarterback in the head, they're gonna have to call that shit now. That's just the rules of the game now. So that was a high leverage play, and it was that's the NFL, man. Bad luck on one play. If his arm is 10 degrees off to the side and just comes across on the shoulder, and that ball that probably goes in the same spot, it's picked, and the game might have changed. But yeah, I wanted to go back and look at that. I do think JPP has a decent game, but if Andy can out scheme, it might not. It all might be for naught.
Okay, so let's talk though about making Brady look bad. Is there a path? Because I've talked a lot up top. There's a long tail to the Chiefs winning, but with margin. A lot of those cases are Steve Spagnuolo's defense makes Brady look bad. Spagnuolo knows how to do it. We've seen him do it. Yeah. He did it with the Giants, and he wrote the book on this. It was really his philosophy that I think a lot of other teams have tried to adopt through the years to limit Brady, and it is primarily using your interior pass rush to generate pressure up the middle. Because Brady, when he's being rushed from the edges, when pressure is coming from the outside, he has an eyes in the back of his head. He's got
smooth step up,
uncanny ability to step up in the pocket, avoid the pressure, maneuver magic in the pocket, and deliver passes down the field and hurt people. But Spagnuolo came away with the good plan of pressuring up the middle. And Spagnuolo, by the way, has maybe one of the most important players in this game to do that with, which is Chris Jones. And Chris Jones is a freaking big game player. He for sure gets his game up when they're going up against their best competition. All of his best games this season have been against winning teams. And I think it's fair to expect Chris Jones to be a disruptive force here, even though he's going up against all-universe Ali Marpet in a lot of matchups, probably. Yeah. Bucs center Jensen also quite good. Did Jensen retire? Or who's the one that retired?
That's why. I'll look it up in a sec. That's why. And we did say the offensive line for Tampa's good. This pass rush has some decent players. I don't know if it's Spagnuolo that's going to cause Tom Brady to be less than successful in this game, I might put it more on Byron Leftwich. Like, I'm still stuck on that point. I think Kansas City is going to do what Kansas City does. I don't think there's some grand game scheme that they can come up with that's just going to ruin Brady's entire day, render him completely useless, just completely neuter this offense. It's going to come down to Leftwich doing it himself. If they do what they did against Green Bay and end up being short on some of these third downs, like it's good, we're punting it back to them and we're down 10-0 already. Like that, you've seen this action before. If teams cannot get the offense moving and Kansas City's trucking, it starts to pile up on you. It's like the joke about interceptions being worse than field goals. Like punts are considerably worse too. So
yeah.
It may be a case of if Tampa is too tentative. So it's similar to what we said about the San Francisco 49ers doing it last year. If they aren't going to put together a good offensive, and that's the thing, like the Niners, they didn't have these weapons. Like they had some good players on offense, but they don't have the weapons. That's why this would be such a waste. Like this would be such a waste if they don't get this offense moving, if they're not more aggressive on early downs, more early down passing. If they can't get that through their head, it might not matter what Spags throws out there.
I don't disagree. What if my gut is wrong? And what if Tampa Bay has absolutely no resistance and scores at will? And the Eric Fisher injury matters a ton. And Shaq Barrett and JPP are alternating game-breaking sacks on third down for the first 5 drives for the Chiefs. How much of a lead does Tampa need to be safe victory? 3 touchdowns?
3 scores, yeah.
3 scores.
3 scores feels good.
10 touchdown field goal. You're okay.
Yeah.
17 points, you think?
Well, I'm not okay, but that's if I'm a Tampa Bay backer, that's where I'm breathing easy. Okay. Like, if I'm only up by like 13, that doesn't feel great. You've seen that movie too many times.
Yeah. So if you're up 17 points at halftime, as a Tampa Bay backer, you're feeling pretty good.
Especially if you have the 3.5.
Yeah. Oh, especially if you have 3. Yeah, that I completely agree with. Okay. What's the live line like if Tampa Bay's up 17-0 or 3 scores, 17 points at some point, 24-7?
You got to do the time decay. What point of the game is it?
Second quarter.
Up 17-0. Tampa minus 6.5.
Okay. We feel that Tampa Bay, I've felt all season long that Tampa Bay is the kind of team that is always game to come back. They're always live for a comeback, but it's a team that is going to have a very difficult time to put away a lead. That's kind of my general read on Tampa. Yeah, I saw that. 23 seems good. Yeah. Let's say it's 23. It's third quarter. Is that, you feel good? So in general, the Tampa live game is the most interesting aspect of this in my mind, because I'm willing to entertain the idea that Tampa Bay's offense succeeds well early and that they can stop Mahomes early because of the pass rush mismatch. And at that point, it turns into, comeback mode for the Chiefs, with God mode Mahomes and, hold on for dear life. Attacking the live over make more sense to you than attacking Chiefs comeback, or double down?
But I mean, I did both last time. Remember somebody in one of the chats was like, are we, when it was 9-0?
Yeah.
Are we doing the over or Chiefs? I'm like, I couldn't decide. I did both.
Yeah. Okay.
Which we worked out again 4 times in a row now. But
and then flip the script a little bit. Kansas City with the lead. We're feeling under, right?
We are feeling a little under, even though it is a better offense than most, and it has shown some proclivity to score maybe in garbage time. I mean, some of that was a little bit. They were up at one point. It was still a 14, 17-point lead. So I would like the total under, and then even depending on how big the handicap is, look at maybe a little bit of Tampa. If it starts getting real late, the clock's really ticking down, and you feel like this game's dead, no matter what Tampa does, you can look at like a Tampa backdoor if they hang a big enough number.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, just because of what Kansas City is going to be doing in clock burning mode. I don't think they're going to go down and score to really hammer it away. They just, if it ends up anything like the last game, it is hard to run on this team. You might end up punting it back to them and only winning the game by like 8 or something, you know. And yeah, if you have futures, if you have a big Tampa future, this is a question I've seen a million times already on the timeline. Like there's only 3, if you have Tampa like 40-1 or some of these numbers I've seen, there's only 3 reasons to hedge. If it's going to be life-changing money that you can win, if it's going to be life-changing money that you're going to lose, or if you think the other side is so clearly a quantifiable edge that you need to be making. Obviously, if you have Tampa to win, I'm not saying lay 3.5 with Kansas City. Even if you really do think that's a big edge, I would feel really awful about making that bet, having both, and watching Kansas City win by like 2. That would be just, I don't think I could do that for my mental well-being. But if you do think there's enough correlation, maybe lay some money line. So that's my only hedging answer I'm going to give. It's 100% case by case. Like the true answer is never hedge, because you have Tampa at 40-1, their money line's plus 150. You did good. You did great. You do that enough times, you're going to strike hard one of these times. It's going to hurt all the other times you lose, but you're going to strike hard if you continue to make good bets on future bets like that.
Yeah. Okay. I don't disagree with any of what you said there. I would only add, if you have 6-1 at a decent stake, and you've captured a lot of equity because the current line is now 1.5 to 1. You can decide if you want to just cover your stake, if you want to create a position on Kansas City, or you have a position on with Tampa right now. And you can decide, do you want to take some of that position off, or do you want to, flip it entirely? You have plenty of flexibility. You could come at a heavy KC position.
Is it Oasis?
What's that?
Is that Oasis?
Oh, I think it might be. No, it's not Oasis. Shane's one of those 2 guys. All right. So
I just thought maybe he's one of them. Maybe Shane is. Maybe it's a pseudonym. And you know what? Pulp is better anyway. Anyway. Back to that. And you know what? You know what you do with futures? Diamond hands. Hold the line.
Okay. So special teams edge either way here. Slight Tampa Bay. Yeah, Tampa Bay's special teams has looked good. They have a good return game. Both punters are great. Whatever. I don't know that for a fact. I just said it. Little concerned about Chiefs kicker?
A little bit. It is outdoors. It could be there could be a little bit of wind. It could be a wet day. We don't know what the weather looks like yet. There's always a chance of rain. It's Florida. So yeah. Slight edge Tampa Bay for X factor stuff, I guess. Yep.
All right. So ultimately, I'm going to attack this game with I have some KC positions. So I'm literally like, I'm not really incentivized to go now lay some points or lay some shoes for KC, even though I do think there's a slight edge and I do think there's some tail. I'm going to play some alt spreads for fun. Kansas City -6.5, Kansas City -13.5, just because of the potential for there to be a game state where Tampa Bay is at a deficit and doesn't come back. They get pass rush up the middle to Brady. That works. This is one-way action. But I think the more likely game state, and I think the way that this goes, is probably Tampa gets the lead first and KC plays comeback at some point, and the entire game unfolds, winner unfolds, spread winner unfolds based on how many times you can stop Kansas City in the second half here. That's wild.
That is Johnny Marr. That's funny. Different band. Much more depressing. I like the Smiths.
Yeah.
Miles is a weird dude, but
okay. So
sorry to keep getting into Britpop.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You're over the Super Bowl. I understand.
I'm excited for the prop episode, and anybody who hasn't caught on to that yet, Wednesday night we're doing a prop episode.
Yeah, think hard about regardless of game state, which angles are viable, because that's the important one. That's the important way to talk.
Is the biggest part, because if you think about how this game state goes, you look at a prop and say, "Oh, this tight end's yardage," and you say, "Well, if the game goes this way, it's dead. If the game goes this other way, it looks good." Well, that sucks because you don't know how this game is going to go. You can price that. You can put a distribution together. You can put a probability together. But there are certain props that no matter how the game state goes, it's likely to have similar results. And that's what we're looking for. No matter how the game goes, the anthem's going to be the same.
Yeah. Who's more likely to hit their team total here? Kansas City 29.5 or Tampa Bay 26.5?
About the same, isn't it? I suppose KC.
Yeah. Not by a lot, though, right?
No, it's pretty close.
So no secret pod play. What about Tampa Bay team total over in the first half? We think ball first Bruce is a thing?
Is it going to be like 14, though? I haven't looked at that yet.
Their full game spread is 26.5, and there's probably a little bit built in on Brady never scores in the first quarter, so maybe it's shaded a little low.
Let's go second quarter team total.
Okay, but that doesn't really help us if ball first Bruce scores in the first.
No, it doesn't. I don't know, man.
You don't. So we don't have a secret pod play. Is that how this is going?
There's only one game.
All right.
We'll come up with like 9 secret pod plays and props.
There's 2 halves though.
We will do a halftime show.
I can't believe I can't talk you into Tampa Bay first half points over.
All right. How about Tampa Bay first quarter? We kick the trend. Ball first Bruce scores 6.5 is plus 100. What do you like better? What do you like? First quarter 6.5 or first half 13.5? It's tough.
It's funny to be going hard at a trend that is so robust, and you have this actually large sample size of Tom Brady's first quarter Super Bowls
with a different team.
Yeah, with a different team. Yeah. You can find 6.5 at plus 100. You said.
Yep.
That's it for the first quarter. That's it.
My
fair price on that is minus 120.
I make it 121, so I'm a little more bullish than you.
You can find over 6.5 for plus 100. All right.
This is an actual prop you can bet too. The side boob.
Where? What?
Side boob prop. Probably bet online, man. They have everything boob.
Where? How is she involved in the first place?
She's not involved directly in like the Super Bowl. She's at like the TikTok pregame tailgate thing or whatever.
Okay. All right. Let's do secret pod play. Tampa Bay first quarter points over 6.5.
All right. Let me cue the secret pod play
music
graphic. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's different. That's something completely different. Oh, look, you can get $1,000 free bet in Michigan.
Wow.
You lucky bastards, you.
Wow.
Do that. Sign up. Send me a thing. If you do that, I'll send you one of these too. Pick your poison. Either sweatshirt. Love you guys.
Hey, final prediction.
37-31.
Ooh, I like that.
Either
I like
team.
it. Either team? No, you think KC's winning.
KC. I do believe KC will win.
KC by 6. Live overs are all solid.
Here, prediction. What will be the big storyline we're all talking about on Monday? And I'll give you 2 options. Will it be more of, oh my God, what a masterclass for Kansas City, or I can't believe Bruce Arians did blankety blank?
Ooh. I think it's going to be...
Because I can see the latter.
I think it's going to be KC. I think everyone's conception right now is that KC... I mean, the market thinks KC has a 60% chance to win, right?
Yes.
And they probably go down at some point and come back and win. And I think there's probably going to be... It could be by margin. And I think the story on Monday is literally going to be three-peat, question mark.
We're talking a minimum 8-peat.
8-peat? Yeah. No, I honestly, I do think that's going to be the storyline Monday morning is can the Chiefs go through three-peat?
It might be a case where Bruce screws up.
Can anyone beat this team?
Won't matter.
Is Kansas City going to be the first team to go 17-0 in the regular season? Can they do it? What do you think?
I don't think Andy cares about that. Not me. I'm not speaking in the third person.
Yeah.
Like Andy Reid isn't like he doesn't give a shit about a 17-0 season. Not only that,
never been done.
His legacy is so intact at this point. We were worried about that a little. Like, man, they got the Super Bowl done. Like, is there a malaise? But I don't think he gives a shit about that. If they were like 15-0, they would rest players.
Okay. All right. Well, I think the chase for perfection is going to be on next year.
20-0. It would be a 20-0 team. 20-0 has a nice ring to it.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. All right,
Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks,
Great
guys.
job.
Everyone in the chat, throwing some good ideas my way. Getting mad about old bets, talking diamond hands. Shane apparently knows a bunch of. Oh yeah, I know that jam. I'm not gonna try. I can't do more. I can't do that. I can't sing. Take me out tonight.
Oh, that's a great song. Charming Man.
The music and the people.
No, that's different.
I don't know all the words to that.
Yeah.
Driving in my car.
Oh, you got this down, man. You want to keep going? You want to sing us out?
I think that's the extent of the lines I know.
I think that was the light that never goes out. You had it. You nailed it. That was good.
No, I know the song. Like that's one of their big hits. But
yeah. All right. Well, take care. Good luck this week prepping. We'll be back with the real Super Bowl podcast on Wednesday where we crush the props. I cannot wait. I feel like Morrissey's or Smith's. That's really good. Is that good? Karaoke jams?
Oh, I don't know.
You do a good karaoke rendition on those. It's real vocal. You know?
The chorus is good. Like I'm just remembering the chorus. And if a double-decker bus crashes into it, I can't sing. See how bad I am at the Smiths.
No, you got it, man.
My karaoke go-to is